am an unabashed monopolist. I'm trying to build something and take up all of the air in this particular niche because no one's there, no one's doing it. I want to own the whole damn thing.
All right, here we go, Phil. We are another episode of the Constant Sports Podcast. We're live. We're going to space today, everyone. So buckle up, and it's going to be a good ride. And Phil here is creating something that's never really been created before. It is an easy way to put it. The world's first professional orbital racing league is coming here to the universe. I was going to say to Earth, but we'll say the universe here. So how's it going, Phil? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's going great. Thanks for having me on, Connor.
Good. Looking forward to this discussion. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, you're the first guest I've had that's creating an orbital space racing league. So we're gonna have a lot of firsts today, and I'm looking forward to kind of hearing about the journey, what's going on, where you guys are at. And so for the listeners and viewers who are, hearing the Atlas Cup is what we're going with here. For the first time, what should they expect? How do you explain it? What is the Atlas Cup?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate that you mentioned there's a lot of firsts here because for us, our corporate motto is first is everything.
Yep.
Partially, of course, that's the racing aspect, but it's also the fact that we are building a truly new vertical in sport, right? This is absolutely not something that's been done before. So we're introducing professional sports to space. So we see this as a series of maneuver-based races in low Earth orbit. So think America's Cup or F1 meets the space economy of today. It's the fastest sport in history the moment we happen. So back to the idea of firsts, we want to work with Guinness Book of World Records to have a couple of records broken the moment we start producing sports content in space. We're planning on starting to produce content in space in early 28, if not sooner. But our inaugural Grand Prix is scheduled for 2028. So think large performant chemical propulsion, i.e. rocket-powered spacecraft doing 17,000 miles an hour, going up, down, left, right, center. Think drone racing league in space effectively.
Awesome. And we mentioned kind of, previously before the call we were talking, and in space-time, it's bigger timelines, and then we come on Earth, the timelines are short. And so 2 years is actually, quite rapid of a timeline for space, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. And fundamentally, part of the timeline comes down to the reality of how we've structured the business side of this, right? So we are not out there designing spacecraft or rockets. We don't have to, right? The industrial capacity of the industry today has matured to the point where we can build entirely new businesses on top of it. Think like an application layer over the internet. Same thing for space. We can basically take existing tech and go off and stitch it together in a way that just simply hasn't been done before. But what we need to do is fit in with everyone else's businesses, right? What we're proposing is new. So we need to be able to have people go off and still execute their fundamental core business needs. So for instance, one of the teams flying with us in 28 is actually launching their satellite in a couple months. They're going to go off and go do a 1-year mission. And then when they're done, they're reserving some propellant and the ability to go maneuver to go off and go compete. So from a timing perspective, these are missions that take years to build, design, license, and get prepared. And then for us to go off and go let them operate their businesses, do their primary missions, and then go do something else takes some time. So for us, 2.5 years in the space industry from starting the company to the first race is like a lightning fast sprint. But yeah, it's also interesting because we're not limited to 2028. So again, that one company that I just flagged, they're done mid next year with their primary mission, and we've talked with them about potentially doing an expo run, right? So we can be producing kind of demonstrable race-like content as soon as next year. So we're really not trying to wait until 28 to go start creating content, again, because our corporate ethos is around being first. So I think there's a lot of value in that. I also kind of quite enjoy the idea of being first. I want to go produce sports content in space as soon as humanly possible. We have some ideas about even earlier, even as soon as Q4 of this year. But, these are operating on timelines that are absolutely unheard of in the space industry. So, I'm not 100% sure they're going to come to fruition. But again, speed to market is really important to us.
Yep, love there. And especially with the speed part, I think it fits in well. And kind of your background wasn't necessarily in kind of the racing sports realm. You were kind of in the rocket realm. And so what was it that kind of, transferred this thought to, you're working, your day job, we'll call it. And then you're like, let's build a race, spacing orbital league here.
Yeah, so my background's bizarre, right? So I'm an attorney by trade. Came up through defense world on the space side. Did a little bit in maneuverable platforms, spent a good bit of time doing launch aggregation and reselling, and then most recently was CEO at a space-based optics company called Scout, doing basically space-to-space imaging, primarily for the intelligence community. So, that evolution is a frankly quite weird one. But the idea behind building the first professional competitive ecosystem in space really came around 5 or 6 years ago, all the way back during COVID times. And really, this was a realization as I was pivoting out of working at Raytheon and a number of jobs, very much in the kind of pointing to the spear defense world, to this new kind of dual use, semi-commercial, semi-defense space economy. And I was learning about what the industry can do and thinking about what the commercial possibilities are of tomorrow. And I was like, man, why hasn't someone done this yet? Right? This has been in popular culture for forever. There's a million video games out there with space racing themes. Yeah. It's been in Star Trek, Star Wars, The Expanse. Like pick a sci-fi show. This theme is there. We all know that this is going to happen at some point. Why hasn't it happened now? We have the maneuverable platforms. We've got the tracking technologies. We've got the cameras. Everything we need to make this work today exists. Like, why hasn't someone done it? Of course, 5 years ago wouldn't have made sense because how people consume sports was very different than today. It was very much focused on that linear 2-hour live event format. Whereas today, we're now looking at the majority of 18 to 34-year-olds this year are consuming their sports media content, the majority of which is going to be consumed through social and mobile and short format. I can create short format content in space until the cows come home. So what I couldn't do 5 years ago, I can do today, right? So this evolution of in-house counsel, big company to in-house counsel, small company to running a space-based optics company and then quitting my job as CEO to go start the first professional sport in space is just this bizarre coming together of happenstance and opportunity that just really came together perfectly at this time. Again, this is where sports fans are going. This is where the broader social zeitgeist is going. We've got the SpaceX IPO this week. It's going to be the biggest IPO of all time. It's structurally just a phase shift in how the world
colossal.
Financially, we've got Artemis 3 and 4 taking humans back to the moon, happening right at the time that we're launching our inaugural season. So we've got more eyeballs on space than ever before. We've got people consuming sports and formats that we can go produce now that we couldn't have produced previously. So I think it's just pure opportunity for me, right? It's, hey, look, I know how to do this. I know how to execute on the space side. And I can take the best of broadcast sports media entertainment on that side and put the two together. And in my mind, it's the most logical thing on the planet. I just need to stitch it together and make it fun.
Yeah. Well, and as you were talking about kind of the 18 to 34-year-olds, with the short form content, and that's a big pillar of kind of the Atlas Cup is the content, the short form, especially as you said, once you guys press go, fastest sport, in the history of Earth. And so what is that going to look like as far as the content goes with the cameras on the, on the rockets or, down on Earth, or kind of what is the eyeball, like the viewer, what can they expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take a step back really quickly and talk a bit about the kind of the overall media ecosystem that we're going to develop and talk about the physical, kind of the user experience watching race operations. So broadly, right, we think of ourselves as, well, pretty much how everyone else thinks of sports nowadays, right? It's this kind of drip feed flywheel of content that happens well in advance of events, during the event, and after the event, right? Yep. No one's focused just on the event anymore. So we like that. We want to produce content starting in January, following our teams during the 18 months leading up to racing. So think sports doc format. Like a 30-minute episode talking to the CEOs and the investors and the program managers and the engineers building these things, testing these things, watching them break, fixing them, redesigning them, talking about the technical decisions they've made to go off and go execute at a performance level that they need to hit. Those stories, I think, are actually really interesting and very necessary to humanize this, right? Otherwise, we're talking 100%. About expensive refrigerators in space going really fast. I think it's cool, but it's hard if there's not that personal, emotional connection. So we need to build that, and we're going to start doing that in January. Then there's, of course, race content, right? That race content is going to be developed through a number of different venues, and to use sports parlance, right? So we've got onboard imagery. So think 4K cameras on board large spacecraft flying around the Earth. And every spacecraft flies with multiple cameras nowadays. So that imagery is getting really, really, really high quality, and it's readily available. So we love that. Additionally, Overwatch imagery. So that's effectively the business I used to run, provided that for intelligence customers. We're going to do that in a commercial sense. So think the helicopter following an F1 car around the track. It's that, but in space, basically a tracking satellite with a camera or two that are watching the race happen and providing video and stills of it. Ground-based imagery as well. So it's hit or miss depending on where you are on the Earth and where there's a lot of things that can come into play or not work. But ground-based imagery, ground-based tracking, and then ground-based radar. So basically, there's a whole bunch of different things we can go combine, and then we're going to mix all of that together in traditional broadcast format. So think two announcers in a booth, talking through, narrating the storytelling behind the event, talking about the maneuvers, talking about the design, talking about the history that led up to it, and then forecasting what's going to happen. So we can do a little bit of, kind of visualization tech, a little bit of real world, real life in space imagery, which I think really where our secret sauce lies, right? Part of the reason why race formats in certain locations do really well is partially because of the location. Think Monaco, right?
Just going to say, yep.
Monaco, because it is freaking gorgeous. It's the Côte d'Azur, it's the yachts, it's the people, right? It's the physical environment in which the racing takes place, not just the racing.
Yep.
For us, we've got the most amazing backdrop imaginable, right? We have the Earth and the moon and the stars, and the imagery is hard to collect, but when it hits hard, right?
Yep.
There's these phenomenally beautiful, transformative images that have come out of the space industry, and those are happening. Those are being created by happenstance, right? They're accidental collections during normal space operations. We're going to go out and try to produce visually stunning imagery. And I think that's what's going to separate this. We have traditional race format, right? Expensive object, go fast. We like it, right? Combine that with some of the most phenomenally transformative imagery you've ever imagined. I think we have something special there.
Yeah, I can't even picture the images, or even like a finished like close race, frame by frame. That'd be quite the image with space in the background, the finish line, whatever it may be. And you mentioned previously it's kind of I'm trying to get to like the map, I guess, of the race. Is it going to be like up and down, across, over? Going to be objects? Because I know there's obviously space has the orbit has debris or whatnot in it. So how does that work with maneuvering that or just kind of the race pattern?
Yeah, definitely. So two totally different topics. So I'll take the race architecture first, and then I'll talk about the debris issues. One, from a race architectural perspective, again, what we're trying to do here is recreate, in effect, a hybrid between how America's Cup takes an arbitrary body of water and sets out a bunch of buoys and says, follow the buoys in this order,
right,
and what Drone Racing League has done three-dimensionally within a race.
Up and down, yeah.
Now, obviously, we can't do that with physical buoys or physical circles, right, in space, nor do we want to put extra objects up there for people to potentially run into, thus the debris topic.
Yeah.
But what we can do is we can define the orbital parameters and the type of maneuvers for the competitors in advance. That's the effectively the race architecture that we're going to go off and go design. And that also gets baked into the rule set effectively to make sure that people are compliant to the expected orbital parameters. Then we can use really quite simple and very sophisticated now AR overlays to go make that visible to the fan in space, right? So we don't have to physically put a target for someone to go off and go fly through in space. We can do it virtually, right? And so much of sports content today is just an AR overlay, right?
Yep.
So we can very much make that visually compelling and clear as well for the fan to be like, aha, here's checkpoint 3. This one clearly missed it. This one clearly went through it, and this one's about to go through it. And then here's the track to go to checkpoint 4, and checkpoint 4 is way over that way, and they've got to go around the Earth twice to get to it. Right, we can tell that story visually, but it's gonna have to be through AR.
Mm-hmm. It's like when you watch a sports game, right, with the sponsorship on the court type of thing. You're seeing it, but it's obviously not on the court type of concept.
Yeah, exactly, or even the 10-yard line, right? I mean, like
First down, yeah.
It's a simple overlay. And again, I think what I've learned, and again, this has been quite a learning process, kind of trying to again, I know space world. What I don't know is sports media world. So I spent a lot of time at events and talking to people and networking to understand what the capabilities are and how we can use them. And I mean, a lot of sports content integrates AR already. I mean, pretty much every scene you watch of any major sports event ever, full stop, every single one of them has AR integrated already. So these ideas, this technology, the application, the fan experience, it's not going to feel different. It's going to look like and feel like and sound like exactly what people already see in sports content. And that's also very, very important to us, right? Definitely. We want to be different because of the novelty of what we're doing and the amazingness of where we're doing it. We don't want to be different because our content feels different. Content needs to look and feel like traditional premier sports property content. That's kind of an unmistakable priority of ours, and that's probably my biggest operational risk is not executing race ops in space. It's actually producing content that feels like content that gets produced by a leading a global media brand.
Media production.
That is the most important thing for us.
Awesome. Okay, great. So I can picture it already. And then what about the debris? What is? It's kind of a side topic, but it just popped into my head, and I was curious.
No, we get it all the time, and it's a totally valid question. So I mean, even when I was CEO at Scout was at its core a space sustainability business. One of our original kind of market opportunities was to prevent debris and identify debris collision risk, right? Yep. So I take it very seriously. One, the beauty here is the parties who are racing are already flying their satellites. They already have primary missions. They're already on manifests. They're already building their satellites. They're already going to space. So we don't represent a net increase in the number of objects or things flying. We're just simply taking stuff that's already up there, it's already going to be up there, and it's just going to go off and do a couple of different maneuvers. Two, our engineers are working to basically design the race architecture in parts of orbital regimes that are not congested. Obviously, we're going to avoid congested areas. That's not good practice, right? Not good for us to go off and put things in space, nor do any of our partners want to go fly their expensive satellites
straight into debris. Yeah.
Right. And then three, more broadly, again, I'm an attorney by trade, and I take this very seriously. And actually, another attorney and I started an organization in Paris at the beginning of this year called the Fédération Internationale des Sports Orbitaux, basically the FIFA or FIA for orbital sport, to be the rules-making and standards promulgating body to go off and go make sure that we're implementing best practices and safe and responsible behaviors in space for all orbital sports. So, while we're going to be the first people to produce orbital sports content, and we want to be the leaders for racing in space, we are not the only people looking at doing sports in space. UFC is in conversation, apparently, with a space station company about doing a fight in space. Right? There's two companies looking at doing lunar buggy racing on the lunar surface. And I wish them all the best. I think that's going to be a blast. I'll watch the hell out of it. But I do think there are legitimate questions about how to do this safely and responsibly. And I think we need an organization at the intergovernmental level or the international level to go off and go help have that conversation. So that's why we started FISO. There's a lot of interesting stuff coming out of that organization. The first rule set should be coming out in a couple weeks. We have some interesting partnerships that we're trying to work up to announce later in the year as well. So we want to be very, very forward-leaning when it comes to safety, responsibility, and norms of behavior in orbit, because we will get decimated as a new vertical if we don't do this responsibly and professionally from day one. So we try very hard to lean forward in that.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. A lot of good insights there. And I did want to just get one thing before we get down to more business here. But your jump from being the CEO and then saying going in. I'm assuming you went into some boardroom or whatnot and said, I'm not going to be the CEO anymore. I'm going to go over and build an orbital race league. What was that like? Just I feel like that's a good story.
Slightly terrifying. I mean, honestly, like from a personal perspective, it took about a good 6 to 10 months to get comfortable even kind of saying
it out loud.
To go say that. Because I think a lot of us are baked into this idea of thou shalt go succeed and get promoted, and everyone wants to be CEO. And I started at Scout as general counsel. I got promoted into the role of CEO. So there's also a bit of that guilt of being trusted with the job of shepherding a business. And frankly, we did great. I tripled the team. I septupled our bookings, took us to $25 million in government contracts, got us our company clearance. I did all the things I was supposed to do. Things are going well, and then I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to leave. It took quite a bit of internal coaching to get myself in the point where I felt comfortable doing it. And it was a long process, right? I mean, I started that, back in March of last year, and then exited at the end of the year, right? So I think, it was a conversation, and not one that was always super comfortable. But I think, again, this is pure opportunity for me. I'm a capitalist and an opportunist. I see a dramatic shift in sports world, right? The sports asset class is completely repriced in the last 5 to 10 years. How people consume sports, we've already talked about it, has changed dramatically, opening up this avenue for content production and distribution. Space world, of course, is having a moment, right? It's frothy. We've got a lot of money flowing through. If you follow space news at all, which I'm sure you don't, but if you did, you'll see another couple $100 million raise every 48 hours, right? Companies are going public. It's a really, really phenomenal time to be in space. And again, Artemis 3 and 4 is historic, right? There's going to be 250 million live viewers of Artemis 4 when we go back to the moon. That is nearly double the best performing Super Bowl of all time, right? So there are physically, actually more eyeballs on space than there have been on effectively any other media type for
all time, forever,
effectively. And it sounds weird to say, but that's true. So I mean, in my mind, I am, I've been an investor in the space industry for a long time. I'm a multi-time entrepreneur, and I've started a bunch of businesses over my career. This is pure opportunity, and to me, it's baffling that no one else has done this yet. Because this is not. I'm not taking really nuanced, niche knowledge and creating something esoteric and hard to understand. This is really foundational stuff, right? It's publicly acknowledged facts combined with traditional formats of racing put together.
Put into one.
Right? It's really not that exotic of an idea. It's exotic because of how it's happening, right? I mean, like the execution.
Concept, yeah.
But yeah. So, anyways, long story short, I took that off running into the forest. But fundamentally, it was quite a process to basically quit my job as CEO to go start a space-based racing league. But I'm sorry. Last point though, it's been a great decision, right?
Yeah.
Back to that psychology, right? I had to convince myself, hey, look, you're going to do this. You're going to regret it. You're going to immediately get doors slammed in your face for 6 months. And then you're going to feel like a moron. And you have to be okay with that before you go tell your board you're going to quit. And I got comfortable with it. And then I started doing it. And I got no doors slammed in my face. And I got new investors. And I got teams that have signed up. I got my first team signed up yesterday, right? So I have multiple teams committed to race. But I have my actual first signed intent letter from a team yesterday, which is great. I mean, we're 115 days old as a business, right? I've got dozens of partners signed up. I've got, a spot filming on a major national television show to be aired in prime time in the second half of the year that we're filming later this month, right? Like and this is all organic, right? Like TV show came to us, right? That is phenomenal. Like I need to convince people that we can make this exciting for the masses, and the fact that major television shows have approached us about hearing on it, I think is clear indication that we're onto something here, right? So the industry vibe is very good. The sports media ecosystem, again, is really mature, right? I mean, frankly, there's a lot of capability and technology and very smart people that are out there that I can just go hire to go build beautiful content, right? So I think we have a clear path. We have the ability to do it. The technology is there. I've got no technology risk. I just need to go off and go raise a little bit of money, right? Build on top of the 5 investors I've already got. And then I need to go stitch together a bunch of trusted tech. And I have literally cornered the market and basically have the first media-based monopoly in space.
Man, I love it. I love it. And what is it? So you mentioned you signed up your first team and you got a few on the way, but what does that look like? Do they get their own names? Are you going to have kind of, like league names like in the NFL, or is it kind of the company name, brand, or F1 style? What's that all look like?
Sure. So we don't have restrictions from naming convention perspective. Right now, the 3 teams that we have committed to race on the professional side, we have 2 universities that have committed to race on the proving ground side. That's our collegiate 2028 league that's going to run in parallel to the professional league. The professional league, it's 3 spacecraft manufacturers. So I'm sure they're going to operate under their own company name. Basically promo for them, right? They're all building for military customers, these high performance, highly maneuverable, highly commandable spacecraft. We're just a way for them to go off and go market themselves as being effectively the best. But we do have interest from a crypto investor as well, who's interested in potentially fielding a team on their own. So to be fair, for someone like that, if a high net worth individual wants to come in and basically go buy a satellite and operate it as part of a race program, great, name it whatever you want, right? I mean, at some point we'll have a conversation about standards and branding and all that. We don't want to predefine what we don't know, and we don't know what we don't know because no one's ever done this.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to ask it, kind of the teams, but you got it already. Is if a wealthy individual is like, I'm going to go buy a spaceship, rocket, and then they can brand it and kind of do. So it sounds like that is a way for them to kind of get involved too.
Absolutely, and that's one of the features of what we're building, right? So the cost of spacecraft and launch is actually not that high. So many people think space is this wildly expensive thing. It's really not. I mean, you can buy a small, cheap, unmaneuverable satellite for $200,000 and launch it for $100,000, right? And we're talking about very cheap. These larger performance spacecraft, 250 kilogram chemical propulsion satellite, these things are the size of a Mini Cooper with wings, right? and you can buy one of those for $2 million, and you can fly it for, call it $500,000 to $1 million plus a couple $100K a year in ops. That price point is like Ferrari Challenge, right? I mean, we're talking about kind of like entry level pseudo-professional automotive racing. We're right there. We're like the on par with the cheapest form of auto racing that's out there. So, I live just over the hill from Silicon Valley, right? And there's a bunch of tech execs who basically are pseudo-professional race car drivers who take their cars down to Laguna Seca on the weekend and go race. And those cars cost between $500,000 and $1 million. You got to go buy tires, and you got some techs, and you got a trailer, and you got track time. Like there's expenses, right? So we're right about the same price as that. So if there's any rich tech execs that are sitting here listening to this who are bored, who want to go field a space racing team, like we're actually quite achievable. It's very much realistic. My problem is I got to go make us noteworthy enough and kind of I need to make sure people are aware.
Put it on the map.
Exactly, right? So that's why this year it's all about shaking hands and kissing babies and going to events and traveling and talking to people and doing podcasts and going on TV and trying to get people excited about, hey, this is a real thing. It's not sci-fi. This is real tech that exists that's happening in the near term. Like these things are flying. We are doing this. If you want to participate, cool. There's a million opportunities, right? It's doable.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I think that'd be very cool to see, who gets involved and who wants to, field their own racing team and kind of go down that path. And I know you were recently on Taylor Mount's show. I had him on a while ago, but talk to us kind of about how that collaboration works, kind of what that's going to kind of evolve into as you guys continue to build out and, like you said, kind of get the Atlas Cup kind of on the map and in front of sponsors and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're working with Mount Sports and Entertainment to go help us on the sponsorship development front, right? So when I thought about our go-to-market plan for year one, right, again, it was pretty much kiss babies and shake hands, and a lot of rejection. And then the goal was by the end of the year to maybe have a team and maybe have a sponsor. Thus far, we're on track to blow past our goals, which is great.
Love it.
But now Taylor's job and what I'm working with him to go off and go do is to go find us those early sponsors, companies that are outside of the space ecosystem who see potential for their brand to be associated with the space industry, and then cut early deals, right? And these are not unreasonable deals, right? We're very rational about the fact that we're very early, right? So this is an early bet and it's priced appropriately, but there's a back end. And the back end is, look, if I'm successful and I create something that's big, they've got their foot in the door of something that's huge, and they look like, godsends in their organizations, and I eventually make a little bit of money. That's what we're looking at right now. And we've just started this process in the last couple of weeks. Some of those early conversations are going really well. We're very excited about it. But that is faster than we expected to be doing this, right? Because we've just had more engagement. I kind of assumed in the first 6 months of this year, I was like, I'm gonna basically get nothing out of the first 6 months, and then like maybe get a little something out of the second 6 months. So we're moving faster than expected. But again, we do see a lot of really amazing opportunities for traditional consumer product goods, their brands to find association with space to be beneficial. You can look at a couple of things recently, quickly. During the Artemis 2 mission, there's a Telejar that floated through the live stream. And Ferrero Rocher, big Swiss chocolate company, right? They got more organic impressions. I think like 220 million impressions or something in the first 24 hours off of that. Jeez. And they immediately started an entire space-themed marketing campaign. A multimedia marketing campaign with, imprints of Nutella jars on the moon and things like that, right? So, people, I think, realize, one, mere association with space can be beneficial to a brand, even if it's completely orthogonal, right? Who would think Nutella is...
Nothing to do with it, yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not like a tech company, right? It's niche. There's a million brands out there, think Lego or watches or others that have just enough creative connectivity to the space industry that there's a really good storytelling to be had there. And then additionally, we've seen a whole bunch of random things. We've had Columbia Sportswear do a deal with Intuitive Machines to be the thermal protection for a lunar lander, and it was basically just put a little bit of a jacket on a lunar lander and called it thermal protection. Good for them, but cool idea, right? Swatch did a deal with Vast to build a space station watch. Korean Air cut a deal with a space van company called Exotrail. It's really fascinating, right? People are just today starting to realize that there's an opportunity here to go off and go advertise through an entirely untouched world, and brands are starting to dabble. And we love to see that diversity, right? We've got clothing and apparel, consumables, timekeeping / fashion, and an airline. Right? I mean, we're all over the map, right? And they're all starting to dabble, and there's real money involved here, right? I mean, some of these deals are 7 figures, and we're obviously not pitching a 7-figure deal at this point for sponsorships, but we absolutely see the path to getting to that, and there's real money. Our business is simple. I create an event, I create rules, I judge it, I market it, I promote it, and I sell ads, and I license content. It's the simplest business on the planet, right? But I only am successful if my ads have value. And to be fair, the market's already started to price that value, and the prices are not low. The prices are pretty phenomenally high for what I think is right now a zero audience market. But we're going to build that audience, and it's going to be worth a heck of a lot more.
Right. Well, and as you're kind of alluding to, it's almost like a whole new category. As we're saying, is in the past it's been sports on field, sticks and balls type of thing, but now we're talking about space, and who knows how many eyeballs as we talked about with was it the Artemis mission you said had 2 times more
viewers?
Yeah. I mean you can put a price tag on that, but I mean you don't even know how many viewers that is, and I'm sure that'll crash some websites as people put. I mean if we're crashing websites on ads for the Super Bowl, I'm sure that an ad coming on with the 250 million people or whatever it is, and is going to drive some sweet viewership for a company, for a brand going forward. And I'm always curious, kind of when I'm talking to entrepreneurs like yourself and building really cool businesses and things like that. some have a plan, some don't as far as this kind of next question, but where do you see, the Atlas Cup in 10, 20 years, or are you the type that just looks, I got to go 6 months at a time, day to day? What's kind of your strategy there?
No, I mean, this is a long-term play, right? I mean, the strategy is multi-part and long duration. I want to own the entire media flywheel in space. And again, I'm a capitalist. I'm an opportunist. I can monopolize media production in space. I'm starting with sports, and I'm starting with racing sports because it's what's intrinsically doable today. It is not where we stop. So we have a lot of interesting things we're looking at, including M&A activity, some interesting different formats for sport activity, and eventually leading towards humans racing in space. And we're not pitching that today because, again, I'm trying to be hyper realistic about what the state of the industry can support, what's commercially viable today, what we can go execute on using existing technologies. But in 10 years, if that's the time frame, or 20 years, absolutely. We're 100% chasing humans racing in space. I believe, and I will die on this hill, that the first time humans race in space, it will be the most watched sporting event in the history of sport. The most watched event in the history of sport will be in space when humans go and race. I'm building the groundwork to go and produce that. So in 10 years, if I'm not well down the path of saying, I've proven out racing, I've looked at other things, I've produced other things. In fact, we're looking at potentially getting a deal right now in the near term to go be the production house to go support someone else creating a media property in space. We love that idea, right? So we don't want to be just sports. We want to provide media production to support all entertainment properties, and eventually even maybe supporting live operations as well. So there's a lot of storytelling that can be done, and there's technology and capability and expertise that we're going to be building for Atlas Cup racing that can be used for a whole bunch of other things. So again, I am an unabashed monopolist. I'm trying to build something and take up all of the air in this particular niche because no one's there, no one's doing it. I want to own the whole damn thing.
I love it, and that, I mean, it's almost a perfect close. I don't even want to ask my next question, but it's for the entrepreneurs here and those listening. As you yourself has gone out to build something so ambitious as the Atlas Cup. What would be some advice for those starting out in their ambitious career journey going forward as they build out a company, a business, or just getting into their career?
Yeah, I'd say this is what my grandfather told me, and there's a lot of very significant influence in my family, prior generations, on what I do today. And it's to take risk, but don't take stupid risk. But you have to take risks, right? You cannot expect to create something new or really be transformative if you're not doing something new and different. And new and different looks scary until you've proven that it's viable, and then suddenly it looks inevitable. So like new categories, right? No one thinks it's a new category. No one thinks it's viable until it's been done, and then suddenly everyone's like, why didn't we do that?
Look at this, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, again, taking risk but being intelligent about it, meaning that means being patient, right? Doing your research, being thoughtful. This is not just, ask ChatGPT what to do, right? I was tracking this opportunity for more than half a decade until the timing got right to go off and go do it. My skill set evolved, the industry evolved, sports fans evolved, and now the time is right. Pull the trigger and go, right? I think that's what's meant by, don't be stupid. Don't take stupid risks.
Part of the risk,
right? Yeah. But yeah, I think risk is really important, right? I think one of the analogies I like to use is that space is basically the new Western frontier, right? And depending on what part of the academic pantheon you kind of like subscribe to, right? The West is either a good thing or a bad thing. But from an entrepreneur's perspective, the West was the West. The West was promise. The West was opportunity to go create something out of nothing, to go stake one's proverbial claim, and then have that be your thing. That's what space is right now. And many elements of the space industry have contestants, right? It's populated, right? You want to go build spacecraft, right? Your number, company 158, right? Finding those application layers, I like to refer to them as the application layers that people haven't touched yet, and then building in that space, that's pure untouched beauty, right? Go for that. There's a $1 trillion+ economy out there, 28 trillion if you trust SpaceX's S1 filing.
Yeah, for
wild number. But that's a huge amount of money. There's a lot of opportunity, right? Will it all work out? No. But find it, research it, track it, wait for the right time and go for it. It is the Wild West. And once you get there and you stake your claim, some people are going to get rich. And to be fair, who knows? Right.
I love it. And as we come to a close here, Phil, as you've presented the Atlas Cup, you got me fired up to race in space now. So I'm going to be waiting on the edge of my seat here for the next few months as some of these shows and whatnot come out, and interviews and whatnot. And so where can the listeners and viewers, where can they find the Atlas Cup, Instagram, socials, website, all that good stuff?
Yeah, all of the above, right? So we're on all major social channels. We have a bunch of content we just started filming in our studio in the last couple of weeks. So that's going to start to come out starting probably around mid-year. So I think 4th of July, we're going to start to see
July,
stuff
okay.
coming out. And then a lot of our kind of more produced content is going to start early next year. So there's stuff coming. Again, we're only 100 and something days old as a business, so you got full time. We're also, we have a website, www.atlascup.com. You can find me on socials. I'm quite active, probably annoying everyone out there, posting constantly about sports and space. But yeah, we're easy to find. Go off and go take a listen. Follow us, like, share, all the things. We love it.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, this has been another episode of the Constant Sports Podcast. We're in the world of space today, and everyone listening and following, go check out the Atlas Cup and Phil on the socials, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming, Phil.
Yeah, thanks, Connor. Thanks for having me on.
You got it.